I'm Krista West. I'm the owner and designer of Avlea Folk Embroidery. And this is the July FlossTube. It's a little overdue. I'll explain why in a minute. But before we launch in, I will tell you all the things. So, all the things. The Avlea website is www.avleaembroidery.com. Avlea means courtyard in Greek, and that's why it's courtyard embroidery essentially. All that stuff will be down in the notes. If you want to see what I'm up to on a day-to-day basis, you can follow me on Instagram, link in the notes. You clearly have found me on YouTube. Thank you so much for subscribing. I actually was surprised to find I'm really close to 4,000 subscribers, which is really exciting for somebody who didn't even know how to take a video 2 years ago. So, and then, what was the other thing I was going to mention? Instagram. See, now I'm forgetting all the things. I think that's it. The website. Oh, I know, that's what it was. Sign up for the weekly Avlea email if you want to know kind of in depth what's going on, because I really put a lot of time and attention into that weekly email. Sometimes it's quick. It's like, okay, hey, cool, I ran across this cool textile thing, or I'm working on this design, or this just released. But sometimes I have a chance to go a little bit more in depth. Like this last week was all in summer stitching and all of that kind of stuff. And I'll usually feature something that's like for sale, because I am a website. Well, I'm not a website, but I have a website. But it's the place where I kind of like have time each week to just really zero in on Avlea and kind of what's happening and what's new and what's releasing and all that kind of stuff. You can also check into the Courtyard. The Courtyard is a forum. It's an ad-free space on the Avlea website where you can meet up with other stitchers, post your work, all that kind of stuff. Now, I just got a question this last week, which really surprised me. Someone asked if they can post like non-Avlea designs, or can they post an Avlea design in a different colorway? And I'm like, of course you can. The Courtyard is all about just embroidery for everyone. And we have people that are brand new, literally have opened their first kit and were confused and are reaching out for help, to people who do amazing drawn thread hemming, super stitchers, as I like to think of them. But it's this really, really great space where everybody can show what they're doing, no matter where you are in your stitching journey. So that's the Courtyard on Avlea. And then about every 3 or 4 weeks, I post a notes from the workshop blog post that just sort of, again, tells more about what's going on. So I like to provide different formats for kind of what's going on. Some of you like the quick one and done of Instagram, just check it once a day or whatever. And some of you like reading, you like text-based information, so I do the blog post. And then some of you really like video content, kind of video/audio, like so that you can either watch or listen while you stitch. So I like to provide a lot of different information across different platforms, because I know that not everybody learns or accesses information the same way. So that's all the stuff. Now, to launch in, I will warn you ahead of time, we're going to be here a while today. There is so much to talk about. I feel like this is one of the most jam-packed floss tubes I have had probably ever. So for those of you who are just all about the stitching, I'm going to start in and show all of the works in process, all the designs that we're working on, getting ready to release, that are all that kind of stuff, or maybe just released, things like that. And then I'm going to move on and talk about some new fabrics. I'm going to talk about the embroidery hoop kits quite a bit today, because we've got really fun changes in the works for those. And then I'm going to finish up by talking about my experience at the H&H America's trade show 2 weeks ago in Chicago. Many of you have been along with me along my little bit of my anxiety-prone journey as I journeyed to H&H, and I just can't wait to share with you what H&H did for me, the connections I made, the projects I'm working on right now, and just sort of what it helped me see about the craft industry as a whole, the small business craft industry in the United States. So get your stitching, get your drink of choice, get comfy. Me, I'm going to be drinking. I literally feel like this should almost be a paid promotion, but I don't know if any of you guys have discovered this Spindrift stuff at Trader Joe's that's like the black tea and lemon. Okay, people, I really feel like Spindrift should pay me. I'm like, sip while you stitch, you know? Like, this stuff is amazing, but I have to be really careful. I'm really sensitive to caffeine, and so I can't drink it too late in the day. So I'm like, I have to get my daily Spindrift in, and that's happening concurrently with this FlossTube. So I hope you can handle it. So let's talk about designs in process. Oh my word, of which there are many. So the first thing that I thought I'd show you is, for those of you who have been following along about using Appleton's crewel wools for Avlea designs. Now, for those of you who are new, I've just recently branched out and started offering a few designs with Appleton's crewel wools. Appleton's is in the UK. They are the company that originally designed crewel wools for William Morris for his arts and crafts textiles. They have a very good reputation. They're lovely to stitch on. And we just sort of discovered cross-stitching with wool. It's really cool. So many of you have known the Delphian Cornflower design that we did, I don't know, I must have released that maybe a little over a year ago, maybe last summer, I think. Summer before? I can't remember. Classic Greek design with cypress trees and cornflowers. Well, Pamela, also known as the Wonder Assistant, just stitched it on as a pillow cushion, which I just feel like this is so cool. If you can see this, it's like the coolest cushion. It's got this lovely kind of like arts and craftsy, but kind of minimalist feel because it's just centered in the cushion cover. So I'll be finishing that up. And as soon as it's done, probably early August, you'll be able to choose the Appleton's wool version as one of the options on the Delphian Cornflower design. It's a great design. Let me see if I can get a little closer to it. There you go. You can kind of see those cornflowers. It's more muted and has a softer effect in the Appletons. And that's what we're finding kind of all across the board with the Appletons is the colors are very saturated. They're these lovely colors, but they just have this lovely muted quality that almost reminds us of kind of like velvet. So I'm really gravitating towards them for cushion cover designs because they also they just feel good. So the Delphian Cornflower, we'll get that up on the website, hopefully early August. I'm a little bit behind right now, and when I tell you about H&H, you'll understand why. So, Delphian Cornflower, that's that one. I actually had to move. I have so many things to show you. I literally had to move my ironing board over here so I could literally move things from one table over. That's how crazy it is. So, moving along. The next thing is 2 sample stitchers finished cushion cover designs within a week of each other, which was very exciting. The first one is this fabulous design called Skandari Diamonds. Can you see that? Okay, great. That will also be finished into a cushion cover. Of course, you can make it as a square. You could even work additional repeats and make it a table runner. Or make even more and make a big square that you would put on a coffee table or a buffet or a sofa table or something like that. But we're going to finish this as a cushion cover. This is a classic Greek island cushion cover design. And I'm going to get a little closer. Lovely starburst design. Color palette's very warm. It's got brown and gold, turquoise, terracotta, gold, and golden olive. So it's interesting, in a lot of Greek folk embroidery, you will see kind of 2 tones of gold, a lighter gold and a more golden olive color used. It's a really, really lovely color combo, kind of riffing off of a light and dark of two different things. The center stitches then are outlined with some navy blue just for this little pop of contrast. Really, really fabulous design. And interestingly enough, it is kind of one way. There are these little interstices, if I can point them out to you, that happen in between these. So for example, on this pattern, the other thing you could do that would be really cool, and I actually thought when I made the design, I thought about doing it this way, is you could make a super long, kind of thinner, skinnier table runner with just these designs all across it. You could run 8 of them or something. It's really cool. And then this one's neat too, because it has a really gorgeous color motif drop repeat. So what that means is for example, you see the blue up in this square here, but down in this row is set 1 over. So the blue is now here. And then in the bottom row is set 1 over. And so you get this really interesting energy that's just a little bit more vibrant and has this really, really lovely quality. So Deborah stitched this one. This is on the Mickey 26 count. I'll get close on that. Can you see that? I'm starting to do YouTubes with my phone because I feel like the video quality and the lighting is a little better so than my laptop, which is weird because I have like one of those high def laptops, but it has been a little bit of a lemon. Don't tell anyone I said that. Hopefully it will not overhear me and like break down today. It has kind of been a lemon. But anyways, so Skandari Diamonds. Here we go. Okay, next one up is, this is another, I mean, I feel like I have this like bounty of cushion cover designs. Back last fall, I started like designing and I was like, you know, we've got lots of good small kits. We've got lots of good all over kits, but I really felt like sort of the squares and borders was the area that was kind of just needed more in the Avlea website because it's so representational of Greek folk embroidery. I mean, it is just border palooza. Borders on everything. Let's just, you know, do you guys remember the old Portlandia show? And they had that episode, which I love because I'm a Portland native. And they had that episode called Put a Bird on It. I feel like Greek embroidery is sort of like put a border on it, you know? So same idea. So this one we're calling Telos Springtime. It is a stunner! 27,000 stitches. So not for the faint of heart, but remember what I always say. You can learn to cross stitch in 1 hour and do it for a lifetime. Nothing is really necessarily that much harder. It's just more stitches. This design is just fabby, fabby, fabby. I love, 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 love it. Celeste stitched this. And I mean, I wanted a little bit more sort of modern color palette with this one. And I just was so pleased with how this turned out. Really, really happy. And it actually has an interesting effect because I don't know if you can really see it there. Oh, I think you can. It actually has ecru stitches on an ivory background. So it kind of creates this sort of really unique sort of tonal quality, textural tonal quality when you get close to it. Plus, I mean, who doesn't just love this little sort of Art Deco-y floral motif? Oh, love me some Art Deco floral motifs. They're probably one of my favorite floral motifs. Kind of anything Art Deco just really like calls to me. I really love Art Deco. I love the Byzantine feel to it, of course, because that was a major element in Art Deco, was sort of a rediscovery of Byzantine art. But I also just love the stylized nature of Art Deco, that it's very sort of geometric and stylized, and I just really love that. I feel like this design is almost like this really interesting combination of like Art Deco meets mid-century modern. So pretty excited about this one. I feel like this would be fantastic, either as a table square. You can totally make it as a square that you would put on a table. Sorry, I am not a very good table, as you can see. Or we would put it on, it will make it into a cushion cover. And actually, hilarious happenstance. So this afternoon, I walked up to get my hair cut. My hairstylist actually is just like 10 minutes from my house because I live in a small city and I love it. So I went up to get my hair cut. Heather cut my hair. We had this great conversation. I'm walking back home and I just, of course, had to walk by the consignment furniture store, which has been really kind of thin on the ground over the last like year because of COVID. People aren't really moving. People aren't selling really cool furniture. Went in today and all of that has changed. And I got the most fabulous little, it's a blue velvet, but it's this kind of like this same kind of like almost French gray green blue color that's in this design. I got the sweetest little velvet chair that's got like a little tufted back. It's in mint condition. I got it for a song. I can't wait. I have to go pick it up tomorrow because I was on foot and I thought that might even be extreme for me to like walk home toting a chair. But it was so cool and I felt like it was so fortuitous that I found the perfect chair to put this cushion on because I feel like a little blue velvet chair in the background is going to really show this design off. Really amazing. Another design too, another thing I love about these border designs is that you can just use a segment. You know, you don't have to do the full 27,000 stitches if you don't want a cushion cover. You can really just as easily, you could take this and work like maybe just 3 of these crosses on one end of a table runner and then pop down and do 3 on the other. Ooh, now that I'm saying that, I'm thinking, wow, maybe we should do a version like that because that would be really cool. So anyways, Telos Springtime. No, Telos Primrose. I had a bunch of names for this one, but I think we're going to go with Telos Primrose because it just reminds me of primroses. Love, love, love it. Okay, so that's that one. Then I'm the one who's like, fine, I'm bringing up the rear on sample stitching of cushion covers, and I'm almost done with this one. Let me see if I can get this one shown to you the right way. I've got one more side to do on this one. This one is the Nisyros. I don't have this one totally named yet. Here, I'll get a little closer. Sorry, still figuring out the angles. I love this design. For me, this is kind of a perfect design. Why? Krista, why is this a perfect design? And when I really stop to think about it, okay, there's some features here that I really like. First, I love any design that plays creatively with negative space. So you've got this whole outer border, but it's almost like you've got this kind of ghost diamond in the middle, this sense of this diamond shape that's missing in the middle. I love that. Secondly, classic color palette, but quite vibrant, heavy use of the 924 teal blue. You can see that. Really frames the design. It's like this fabulous red and blue design, but by adding in that soft olive green, and again, that little bit of ecru, it just really makes a much more sophisticated color palette. And then the other thing that I particularly like about this design is that, for me at least, it's the perfect combination of following the pattern and being able to do like more meditative stitching. So like, for example, I worked the outer border with just like the little forms here, and now I'm going back in and just filling it. So like, for example, we're going camping this weekend, and I was like, oh, well, I was going to take it. And then I thought, wait, Krista, how dumb is that? You're this close to finishing this huge sample. Like, you're going to like get this anywhere near a campfire or dirt. Like, so I rejected that idea. But if I was taking it camping, the thing that's great about it is that I don't really have to follow the pattern much. All I have to do is fill in now, do a lot of those fill stitches. So I love designs like that are sort of a little bit of both. I feel like if you do all meditative, it can get boring. But if you do all, like having to count every single little stitch on the pattern, that can just be sort of frustrating. So I love designs that are sort of a combination of both. And I feel like this is a great one. And actually the two other designs that I showed you, Telos and the Skandari Diamonds, both the same way. You can kind of get that structure in place, and then you're just sort of like meditatively filling in when you're all done. It's a nice rhythm. I like that rhythm. I mean, I say that, and then like I've got this like new complicated Byzantine one I'm working on, and I like that one too. So anyways, so cushion covers. I know you guys are gonna like love this, but I think I figured out a way to do releases. For those of you who are new here, let me just say that releases have been my greatest challenge. I love stitching stuff. I stitch every day, but it's like, how often do you release? Do you release just the minute you finish something? Do you wait and release things in a group? Do you have like themes? What do you do? And I feel like, and then once sample stitchers started reaching out to me and being like, hey, can I stitch designs for you? I'm like, great, more embroidery. And then I was like, oh, more embroidery. Like, I don't want to overwhelm everybody, but as I've stated before, I feel like what I'm doing with Avlea folk embroidery is a little bit different in the embroidery design world. And that is that I see my mission to sort of translate and kind of open the door to the entire world of folk embroidery. So I see the Avlea website more as an encyclopedia that I'm growing over time. So that hopefully in 5 years or 10 years, when people think folk embroidery, they'll think, oh, let's go over to Avlea. Like, she's got all the like historical designs. Or not that I could have all of them. I could never have all of them. But my goal is to have hundreds and hundreds of designs there eventually, as a means of keeping the historical record of Mediterranean folk embroidery. So because of that, like, I'm stitching all the time. The sample stitchers are stitching all the time. We're turning things out. But so that's sort of my creative goal. But as a person running a small business, I know that you can overwhelm people, and I don't want to do that. So I finally sat down and I created a calendar for the year where every month has a little bit of a theme, has some sort of like overarching theme, and then the releases will all be done like within that theme. I thought it was clever. So maybe it's actually just really self-evident, but I thought it was kind of interesting. So for example, September is when I'm going to start this calendar, like this kind of annual calendar, this theme idea. And September is going to be our month to focus on Byzantine aesthetics. So I'm going to be releasing the Byzantine band sampler. I will be doing the Byzantine bit kit that I just showed on Instagram yesterday, one of the days. So taking the Byzantine borders, the classic borders, and using them for different projects. All of that. so that I kind of have a theme that like September is Byzantine month and October is going to be our Fluff the Nest cushion cover month, because I thought that'd be perfect. So most of these cushion cover kits will release and be ready to go like probably late September, early October. Again, because I want to be really respectful. I don't want people to feel like I'm pushing them to buy embroidery kits. I would never, ever, ever want that. But I just love embroidery, and I love embroidery design, and I just love getting as many things out there as possible. So I'll just keep, releasing and doing these things, but it helps me even as I'm looking over my design schedule to like, okay, for example, I've got a certain table runner on my design wall that I'm looking at right now. And I'm like, okay, wait, that'd be a perfect winter project. Like when we're like setting the table, like working on that in January or something. We'll aim to have that done then. It's just kind of a helpful structure for me to kind of know where to put things throughout the year. Of course, there will always be like oddball designs that I throw in, but that's at least sort of a structure. So I feel like I'm kind of learning my way towards releasing in a way that at least feels at least somewhat organized. But maybe actually now that I say that, like maybe part of it is that textiles aren't always very organized. So it's like maybe the best thing is just to like keep releasing. But at least for my own sanity, and also for me, what I'm finding is it's helpful for me to batch the work of releasing. Like for example, for every design that's released, there is graphic design that needs to be done. There's pattern info and edits that need to be done. There's photography that needs to be done. And I'm finding for me, I do a lot better if I can kind of batch tasks. Like rather than set up all my photography equipment on one day and then 4 or 5 days later have to set it up all over again. It makes sense for me to like do that 1 day a month or 2 days a month or something like that. So we'll see how that goes. Stay tuned. Okay, more stuff. Oh, new releases. Taproot. My article and project is in Taproot magazine. Kind of exciting. This is my second project for Taproot. My third one will come out in their August issue. And this is the Thracian Forest Table Runner. Oh my word. I would show you the sample, but they have the sample in their store right now. I love this design. I'm going to get close to it. Is it not fabulous? It's got the outlining, and y'all know how I love the outlining, and it's got that rosewood, that DMC, what is it, 3857? Love that rosewood. Anyways, and so it's a whole article on how I use heirloom textiles, as well as the pattern. Great photos. Let's see here, what else? And then the whole chart. Wait for it. The project info, and then the chart, the half-size chart, half of it. And Taproot is selling those kits at their website. So when I do these kind of partnerships with other businesses like Taproot, it's actually really good for both of us because exclusives are great really for everybody. Taproot will have that design exclusively for the next 8 months, which means they'll be able to sell it in their shop to their client base. More people will learn about Avlea. Yay. And then in 8 months' time, it will come off copyright and it will go onto the Avlea website, and then people will learn about Taproot. Yay! So it's all good. And I'll talk a little bit more about this, but I will tell you right now that the wave of the future for small businesses is partnerships. It just is. Wow. If I had one takeaway from H&H Americas, that was the big takeaway. So I'm really excited to be partnering with Taproot again. I'm actually just really kind of excited that they asked me again to like do something. And then the August issue coming out, their August issue is a really cool project. It's an embroidered borders apron. I think I've showed that in other ones, and it's been on my Instagram. If you scroll through my Instagram, it's in there. Me with the artichokes and the apron, all the things. So, Taproot. Okay. Next up. Okay, this is really exciting. And actually, I forgot to grab it, but I'm going to grab it right now. Okay, so hang tight because it's right here. Okay, so for a long time, you guys have been asking me, can I get the traditional ground cloth in white? Yes, I can. Now I can. So here's what happened. So for the last couple of years, as I've been importing fabric from Greece, I have been importing it from my regular brocade supplier who supplies all of my brocades. And that's been great. He's terrific. Dimitri's awesome. And he's been like, but it's not what his mill makes. So I knew he was sourcing it from somebody else, but he's really nice and he like wasn't marking it up or anything. So it was really nice. Well, it turns out that the mill that makes the traditional ground cloth and the mikini and all those fabrics that we get from Greece actually found me on Instagram. Woohoo! woo, and reached out to me. And so it almost left me speechless. Like seriously, like that. I have 3 sample books from them with a whole variety of fabrics. They produce fabrics for the traditional Greek folk embroidery market, as well as things like needlepoint. They do Aida cloth. They do all that kind of stuff. But it's a small family business, 3rd generation outside of Athens. I am so excited because they have a bunch of like variations of things that I wanted, like the white traditional ground cloth. I'm actually working later today on designing a new bit kit on white that will probably be like a blue theme on white. And so it's just nice to have that option because I love the traditional ground cloth and it's very sort of natural, sort of weedy color. It's fantastic. But there are some designs where you want to play with color palettes that work better on a white background. And so I'm really excited that we have that. So that was the first thing. They were able to get us more of the Mickey 30 count. Literally the day it arrived, we had literally 1 piece 12 inches wide left. So that was really fortuitous. We were very excited about that. But in addition to that, there are a whole bunch of other fabrics that I've never really seen or played with before that are produced for traditional folk embroideries, or at least have been produced for embroidery in Greece over the last probably 70 years. And so I'm getting to know that. The owner and I are working together, and he's really excited to have some of these fabrics seen in America, and I'm really excited to be able to show them. So one of the things that he showed that I just got to see that's kind of cool, I haven't seen anything like this before, is they call this araki, and it's a counted thread fabric, but it does have like regular holes in it, kind of like Aida cloth, and it's 18, is it 18? 17 to 18 stitches to the inch, so tiny. But I want to play around with this because I feel like it also could be, it comes in these amazing colors. First off, there's this like turquoisey green, and my screen, at least right now, is showing me this more blue. This is like the most rich turquoisey green color, just scrumptious. Then the other color that it comes in that I love is this terracotta color. I've long wanted to do a design that is like ivory and black, maybe on terracotta, where like the background of the fabric like is really cool. So it's just something I've wanted to work into my repertoire. And for those who don't want to work on just white or ivory, sometimes working on a different color is really, really fun. So I'm waiting to kind of find out a little bit more out. I'm learning about these fabrics and kind of trying to figure out what we can stitch. Again, 18 stitches to the inch is pretty tiny, but this is pretty easy to stitch on because it's like you can see the holes. I don't know if I can get close enough for you to see. Yeah, you can see it. It's pretty easy to figure out where you stitch on this one. It isn't quite as difficult as, say, working on like a 32 or 36 count linen. But one of the fabrics they have that I'm the most excited about, hang on, spindrift moment, is this. And this is, okay, they could only send me a sample of one version. This is a poly version, but they have a little bit of it left in cotton. And I just bought all of it this morning, like everything they had. I was like, I'll take it all. This is so cool. So what this is, okay, so you have to remember in Greece, a lot of women who are stitching and doing embroidery, they're all about practical usability. They are making them into tablecloths. They're making them into little blankets. They're making table runners, all that kind of thing. And I love that idea. But I also get that a lot of people have busy lives. And if we can have a fabric that does some of the work for us, I feel like that's kind of a win-win. So what this is, it is fabric that has machine-drawn thread hemming in it. Oh! So cool. Maybe you guys have already seen something like this, but I had never seen things like this until I'd gone to Greece. But it's really cool. And so basically what it is it's kind of like the Mickey in the middle section, but it's a small section. So I will be designing some table runners and things like that to where basically there's a small motif that goes in each section, and then you just embroider that. So very easy to count. Very easy to make something look like it has a lot more stitching than it actually does. And then today we were just looking at it in the workshop, and Pamela and Georgia and I were all standing around going, oh, the other cool thing you could do with it for cushion covers is you could run a different color of fabric behind it that would like peep through the drawn thread sections, which would be really, really cool. So we're going to play around with a bunch of different things, but I'm really excited about this fabric. As soon as the cotton versions arrives, actually on most of these fabrics, I will put them in the Avlea fabric section before I've had a chance to stitch designs on them, because it's going to take me, a month or so to get some designs up and running on these. And I know that other people may want to play around with them in the meantime. So we'll get those up. The traditional ground cloth I'll probably have up, I'll probably have it up by tomorrow, the white. And then the other ones I'll add in as I have time to photo them and get them up there. So I'm really excited to be expanding the fabric offerings at Avlea, because when I first started, I was like, wow, traditional ground cloth. It was sort of like I had one crayon in my crayon box. And then we got the Mickey, and then we got the Mickey 26 count, which it turns out is actually not called Mickey in Greece. It's a different fabric. But I think we're just going to stick with Mickey because it's what we all know it is. And it is really close to the Mickey. And then there's some other fabrics they have that I'm really curious about, because they're a little bit wider, or not wider. They're a bigger stitch count. So more like 7, 8, 9, 10 stitches to the inch. But I'm very curious to play around with the Appleton's crewel wools, as well as fingering weight yarn, like lace weight yarn. Because I think there could be some real fun to be had with like kind of this cross-pollination of hand-dyed yarns and things like that with like a larger canvas. But the issue is, if you're going to cross-stitch with yarn, first off, you need bigger needles, but you also need a fabric that's got a little bit bigger holes. You can't put yarn through a 32 count linen. So I'm kind of exploring that. And I was really, I was kind of thinking about it before I left for H&H, and then I was there and I saw a lot of like the yarn offerings. I was like, oh yeah, there's a lot of room for cross-pollination between the crafts. And this is very much happening. Cross-pollination is happening all across the crafts industry. Fabric stores are carrying, embroidery kits, even though like they normally only sell fabric. Yarn stores are carrying embroidery kits. Everybody's carrying different things. You might have one local yarn or fabric store in your town, but they're kind of carrying a little bit of everything because they have to. So I think this is really good for crafting, because I think it's actually really nice to try out different things. Some people try out 5 or 6 or 7 different kinds of crafting until they kind of zero in on the one that they feel like is like their jam. I've done lots of different kinds of crafting. Like, for example, I went through a huge kick where I was doing hand quilted quilts because I love hand quilting. But then again, it's kind of like cross stitch. It's got that meditative feel to it, which I really, really love. So I went through a big quilting phase, and then, then I got into cross stitch. I'd done embroidery throughout the years, and it's nice. It's nice to have the variety. And I think it's actually really good for all of us designers and shop owners and all of this to be okay with that, because we just want to support crafting. We want to support making. We want people to experience the joy and the brain benefits and just everything that crafting, the creative benefits that crafting has to offer. So I kind of feel like we all benefit when we support each other. Anyways, I kind of went down that rabbit trail. Whew. Okay, what else? Oh, I know what I want to talk to you about. So, okay, talked about all that. Talked about the new fabrics. Taproot. Okay. So now I can launch in about the H&H show, because going to H&H was really for me a life-changing event. There was sort of me and Avlea before H&H and me and Avlea after H&H. And that's just sort of like, I know that I'm going to forever look back on this experience and be like, that was the turning point for us. So for those of you who are new or haven't heard the other FlossTubes, H&H Americas is one of the largest trade shows for what's called the soft crafts industry in the world, normally in Cologne, Germany. But this year, they held it in Chicago in June. This was like 2 weeks ago. And back last December, I was really realizing, I was kind of putting together the pieces and realizing that the way to grow Avlea and to make sure that these designs would be available to as many people as possible was to both grow our website, which is happening. Thank you, everyone. So exciting. and also grow our wholesale trade. Now, for those of you who didn't see the blog post on this, just to give you the really short answer, here's the deal that I've learned as a small business owner over the last couple of years. Having a retail e-commerce site like Avlea website and being able to do wholesale and partnerships with other wholesale businesses is a symbiotic relationship. So for example, if I was to only do retail, then I would be buying my supplies in the smallest quantities possible, and then we would just be fulfilling orders, as they came in. Slower time turnaround, higher prices, because we'd be buying at the top of there would be no quantity discounts essentially. As soon as we add wholesale in though, now we're buying fabric in quantity, we're buying hoops in quantity, we're buying needles in quantity. And on many of these items, as soon as you cross over and start buying them in quantity, that's when the magic pricing happens. If you go to buy John James, for example, John James needles, if you buy John James needles in your local store, you're going to pay anywhere between $2 and $4 for a pack of 10 needles. Okay. So that's what? 20 to 40 cents a needle. I buy them 1,000 at a time loose, and they are like 4 cents a piece. So that's 1/10 the price of what you're going to pay. And that means that goes into that, keeping that kit price down. And this has been huge for me because if I am not frugal, I am not anything. I am just frugal to my toenails. And I don't want embroidery and traditional embroidery or high quality embroidery to have such a crazy high price tag that it warns people off essentially. A couple of years ago, I was looking around at other embroideries and I would see embroidery kits for like $90. And I'm thinking, who's going to realistically pay $90 for an embroidery kit? And so I really felt like keeping kits between that 20 to 30, in that $25 to $35 range was really critical. And so I've done a huge amount of work on sourcing in quantity to be able to get those kits down. But the important part of that is being able to sell wholesale. And so for me, building that wholesale business helps everybody. It's good for shops because they have a really cool product to offer because Avlea is pretty cool. But then for my retail customers, it keeps those prices down. So it's really a win-win situation. But I need to get more stores aware of me. And so back last fall, I started reaching out to some of my other friends in the industry and saying, hey, have you heard of any good trade shows or whatever? And one of my friends was like, oh, I heard H&H is having an America show this year. And I went when it was in Cologne, Germany, and it was amazing. So I was like, okay, I'll go. So I got a booth. It's expensive. It's very expensive. I mean, not for trade shows. That's not to actually, I don't mean to say that it's expensive for what it is. I mean, you're getting a booth in a high visible area for several days, and you get a lot of things with that. But in terms of just the price tag, it's a very expensive buy-in. It's at least about $3,000 by the time you do airfare, meals, booth, extra add-ons, and all that to go to one of these trade shows. But if you can make connections and get in more stores, it's the sort of thing that you do as a form of advertising. So I went to H&H, but I was really nervous that it was going to be, first off, it's mostly a yarn scene. It's a lot of yarn, a lot of knitting stores. If any of you did any of you see my Pensive Men in Sweaters stories arc? It was very fun. It felt like everywhere I turned around, there was a huge 6-foot-tall poster of a pensive man in a sweater, looking very pensive and manly in his hand knit sweater. It was really funny. It was definitely a theme. I saw 6 posters like that. So it was mostly yarn, but I thought, well, why don't I just go and try it out? So I went, and it was so incredibly valuable. And this is why. First off, it was in person. And we've all been doing Zoom and we've all been doing virtual for the last couple of years. And it was so nice to be back in person, talking face to face with other people about crafts, about what crafts they like, what crafts they want to see in their stores. I got, for example, one business came up to me one afternoon and was like, oh, I was like, and I'm getting ready to do my whole, hi, I'm Krista of Avlea Folk Embroidery, and here are our embroidery hoop kits. And she looked at me, she goes, we already stock all your kits. When are you going to do new ones? And I was like, oh wow, I hadn't realized the embroidery hoop kits, like our Arcadian Rose, these little guys, were so popular. I mean, I knew we were fulfilling regular wholesale orders for them, but this shop owner was like, we're just waiting. We have customers come in and ask, when's the next Avlea kit coming? And that was a huge surprise to me. And it made me realize, okay, the little 6-inch embroidery hoop kit is still here to stay. And my goal with the 6-inch embroidery hoop kit has always been to be doing as high of quality of product as possible. And so then I was mulling this over. The same shop owner told me, she goes, can you design one like that's more for beginners? Or she said, we have all these women like in their 40s and 50s coming in and they're returning to embroidery. They haven't stitched in decades and they don't want a kit that's like a cutesy little elephant or an owl. They want something really beautiful. And I'm like, oh, it would have never occurred to me until I had that conversation with that shop owner to do something like that. Am I working on that right now? Yes, I am. I am working on that right now. Actually, where is that design? So I have this really cool, that just totally fired my imagination. And I was suddenly like, wait, you bet we can do this. And so I had sort of creatively set aside in my own mind the hoop kits. And I came back and I have folders and folders upon folders and subfolders of designs of things that I thought would be great. And then I figured out another way to produce a bunch of them at once. So the designs, because we have the fabric printed by Kaufman now. And so that's kind of a thing because you've got to commit to 100 yards every time you do a new design. But I figured out that we could actually we could stack multiple designs. So that was helpful. And so now I'm in the throes of designing essentially what is probably going to end up being 10 new hoop kits. They won't all release at one time. Don't worry. They'll release slowly over the next year or so. But I would not have gotten that feedback any other way than being in person. And so that was huge. I also, for example, I was walking around and I saw another embroidery designer that was packaging all of her hoop kits in beechwood hoops. And I was like, okay, we just have to do that. Because that's one of the reasons I've had to be really honest as a designer and as a textile person who's used to working with very high-end designs. One of the reasons that I've had a hard time getting behind even my own embroidery hoop kits, I love the designs, I love the stitches, I love the colors I choose. But this little bamboo hoop kind of ruins the ride for me, to be perfectly honest. They're kind of cheap looking. They're not that nice to work with, but it's this pricing thing you have to do to keep the hoop kit a reasonable price. So I came home from H&H and I just went and negotiated the heck out of a awesome deal to get, if I tell you how many hoops I bought, people, okay, some people have IRAs and some people have stock accounts. I'm investing in hoops, okay? So I bought a gazillion amounts of hoops from my guy, which allowed me to negotiate a price that is only slightly higher than the bamboo hoops. So now, starting in September, all of my hoop kits are going to re-release, but with the really high quality beechwood hoop. I am so much, and then for me, it was seeing that in person was oh, that's what's been holding me up creatively. I need that hoop to be beautiful. I love that the design is beautiful, but for me, the little hoop that it's displayed in, it's not for me. It's not what I want. So I'm going to be re-releasing these. What we'll do is we'll take all the kits that we have that have the bamboo, pop them on the sale page. So those of you who need a sale or a low budget option, you still got an option because I still have a number of the bamboo hoops that will sell those off until we have those gone. But then all the new kits are going to release with the beechwood hoop. And I feel this is such a good design, such a good move for me because I feel it allows me to really produce an embroidery kit that I am gosh darn proud of. Something that I'm here. Let me give you this beautiful embroidery hoop and this beautiful textile and let me help you make something beautiful. So things like that. If I had not walked by and seen it, it would never have occurred to me because I just had the beechwood hoops in the category of fine needlework supplies and things we sell on the supplies page. It just hadn't occurred to me that we could migrate them over and combine them with the embroidery hoop kits. So that's the value of being in person. But one of the best things I learned at H&H that I was really excited about, I got to go to some really fabulous presentations. These are things like a state of the industry panel. I got to hear 4 experts in the field talk about the craft industry from different perspectives. One is a major manufacturer. One is the industry trends expert of DMC. I went to her industry trends presentation. Oh my gosh, I literally wanted to stand up and cheer. And I was sitting there trying to stitch and stay super calm, but I was yes, so interesting. And she just did all this really interesting stuff on COVID and where people are societally, and then all the way through all the different trends in fashion and home decor, and how does it relate to the soft crafts industry and color palettes and all sorts of different color palettes that are coming along. And for me, that's just so sparky creatively, for to sit in a room and watch someone who is clearly an expert in their field produce slide after slide after slide after slide. I mean, literally, whoo! I'm just like, yes, bring it on. It was lovely. But that same woman, that same expert from DMC, was on an industry panel that I got to hear, along with the shop owner, and then Vicky Howell of Yarn Yay fame. Some of you may know her. Vicky Howell was the host of a TV knitting show, and I think now has a really big YouTube knitting channel. And she's written a bunch of knitting books. And now her business is what's the Yarn Yay subscription boxes, which mean every month people who sign up for her boxes, they get like a project with like really great yarn that she's custom picked out, along with other like tools and little things in the box. But so here's what happened that was so interesting. Well, the first day, I've got Hirschner's, like the cross stitch catalog company people, right? Do any of you like still get the Hirschner's catalog? They're coming over to me, shaking my hand, introducing, handing off business cards and things like that. Turns out Hirschner's is very interested in selling Avlea kits because table runners. There really just aren't a lot of options for table runners out there. And so they were really taken with my table runner designs because they felt like it would work really well. So who knows, I might be partnering with Hirschner's, which I thought was really interesting. I had 2 other distributors come up and like talk to me about distributing, which was really exciting. And then I had a whole bunch of yarn shops and fabric shops and quilt shops, even one yarn shop that works out of a vintage VW bus, which is that not cool? All come to me be like, yep, kits, we need kits, because people are coming up and saying, do you have anything with embroidery, or I want to give a gift or something like that. So all of these little partnerships are forming. And it's the last day. It's the last hour of the last day. And I am standing there and I'm looking around my booth trying to figure out, honestly, what's going through my mind at this point is like, what can I pack up without anybody noticing? Because I don't want to be here till midnight. I had a really early flight the next day. And I look across the way and there's Vicky Howell and she's walking the booths. And she was between booths and I just went over and said, hey, you know what? I just want to say thank you for what you had to say during the industry panel, because she really brought a huge amount of positivity to the panel. And her whole theme during the panel, all the questioning, the back and forth, the theme that she kept coming back to, which I so appreciated. And I feel like all of you who follow Avlea know that I am really all about building community. Community among embroiderers, embroiderer to embroiderer, like all the community, all the stitching, all of it. And she was so positive about that. And her whole theme during the panel was like, she kept coming back to, it's all about community. We're only going to survive the pandemic together as small business owners if we, group together, if we do partnerships, if we work together, work together. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. I was like, yes, preach it. Again, I was wanting to like stand up and shout. I didn't. I kept my cool. And so there she was across my booth. And I just went up and said, hey, you know what? I just want to say thank you. I really appreciated how positive you were. And it was really inspiring. That was all I was going to say. And she turns around and she goes, who are you? What do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm Krista West of Appleton Folk Embroidery. We do cross stitch, like I know yarn's your thing, but like I do cross stitch. She's like, we've been looking for a small cross stitch kit. And I was like, wait, what? Next thing I knew, I'm partnering with Yarn Yay. So I can only tell you that right now because it has to be top secret. But I have a project that's going to be coming out in the Yarn Yay September subscription box. Very exciting. Little nerve-wracking. It's a lot of kits. Like if I told you the number, I can't tell you the number, but if I did, you'd be like, oh, it's a lot of kits. But we have a lot of hands on deck this summer. Georgia, my daughter, my 12-year-old is here, madly making needle cards and winding floss and doing all the things. So we've got a lot of hands. But I was just so blown away that somebody like her would like partner with somebody new like me. But she said to me, and boy, I'll tell you, this one's going down in the memory bank. She said, a rising tide lifts all boats. And I was like, exactly. If we all help each other together, we will like all raise up the industry together. So it was just very, very inspiring So I feel like that was the big takeaway for me at H&H, was to go and be really positively inspired by being in person, just walking around. Oh my word. Next year I'll try and do slower videos, because just to see all the different things that are there. My thread rep, who I'd actually never met, like that I've been buying thread from the company for my tailoring business for a decade, they were there. So I finally got to like meet him in person. Hey, I'm Krista. So there was just all of this interchange and so much creativity, like all in one room. And I just found that it was very, very valuable to me. I think also too, I'm kind of one of those people that I'm like, yeah, I don't need to go anywhere. I work great in my workshop, blah, blah, blah. I got there and was like, okay, I just need to have a little self-knowledge here that I need to be out in the creative world at least a couple times a year. Trade shows or seminars or teaching or speaking or things like that. I need that because it just opens up that kind of like getting to see what other people are doing, just opens up new creative pathways in my brain that I won't open if I'm just literally here in the workshop all the time by myself. So this was really long, FlossTube, but that was H&H. And so it was huge for me. And a big part of that was huge for me was I became a member of the CIA. Not that one, but I wish it was that one. Do you guys all remember the Mrs. Polyfax books? Maybe nobody's read those. I love those books. They're books about a 70-year-old woman who marches into the CIA and announces that she wants to become a spy. And she becomes a spy. They're great. Anyways, but the CIA is not that CIA. It's actually the Craft Industry Alliance. And what it is it's a trade organization for small craft business owners like myself. And joining the CIA has also been, it's like really for me, it's like two halves of the same coin, H&H and the CIA, because they kind of both came into my life at the same time. And being able to be a part of a trade organization of all other people who are doing very, very similar things to me, and we have kind of the same joys, the same challenges, the same pitfalls. Like, it is so helpful. I have spent the majority of my 27 years running textile businesses of one kind or another completely on my lonesome. And to suddenly feel like I have a tribe of fellow people to like bounce ideas off of, share victories, share challenges with, as well as have an amazing resource bank. They have webinars, podcasts that are available to members. They've got resources on all sorts of different aspects of business. They even have a health insurance plan. I mean, really, it's everything. And that has been huge for me because I feel like I'm not doing this alone. Now, again, I say that, and like, I really do feel like from day one of Avlea, I feel like all of you stitchers out there who like bought my earliest design, sent me emails. I've never done this feeling unsupported. I've always felt very, very supported on the design and the embroidery side of things. But I feel like now I have people to help me on the business side of things. And that's really, really valuable. I'm really grateful to have that support. And also the other thing I value is that some of the people are shop owners. So, I get that kind of input. Some of the people are much younger, and that's really good because like they're going to have a different perspective, and I value all those different perspectives. They're going to see things that maybe I'm not going to see because I'm older, and conversely, like, some of us who are older have owned businesses for a long time, like we've been through some challenges and some rough years and things like that, so we can help the younger ones. So anyways, very, very excited to be a part of that. I know this was a super long FlossTube, but I really wanted to go in depth about H&H and joining the Craft Industry Alliance and kind of like moving forward with Avlea. And just say again, I mean, I would not be here. I would not be looking at this wonderful opportunities for growth and partnership without your support. This Avlea would simply not be here without you. And I am so grateful, so just incredibly grateful that I get to do this work. I get to live with these designs and make historic folk textile such a huge part of my life. But I only get to do that because I get to share it with you. And so I just want to say thank you. I came away from H&H with this deep sense of gratitude. I am not going to tear up, but like really deep sense of gratitude that I get to do this work and that people help support and come alongside in this work. Because I really feel like if Avlea has taught me nothing else, it's taught me that textiles and making brings people together. And that's just what I want to leave you with. It brings people together. And I think that is just such an amazing thing. So thank you so much for being with me during this very long FlossTube. I hope you all have lots of lovely summer stitching time. Hope you're sitting on your patios. Wait for it. Drinking your Spindrift. So got that last Spindrift in. I mean, seriously, it's like not a product placement. I just think it's funny. So anyways, sending you all love, sending you all the things. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and stop by the website. Happy stitching.